first of all, I want to thank you all so much for joining. Um, your support, the industry support for this event has really meant a lot to me. We still have our winemakers joining us. But when this whole blast happened, I had a lot of people texting me, emailing me, calling me, first asking me if all my family was okay, while we were also calling everybody back home. And then I had a lot of people say, I want to help, I want to help, what can I do to help? And obviously, for many obvious reasons, people always come to me for wine and they say, okay, how can I help? Where can I buy Lebanese wine? So I wanted to do something to help as well. And I decided just posting things on my Facebook page wasn't going to be enough. So I wanted to think of something concrete that I could do to help. So my first thoughts was to go to this amazing wine community and bring them to you. Very briefly, I grew up in Beirut. I think most of you who know me know this by now. I grew up in Beirut during the Civil War. I left to come to the States to go to college, and never really had a chance to go back. When I graduated from school and I started to work, the country was still in a tenuous state. So I've continued to be here, and I've created a whole community of amazing people in this country. But I'm still very connected to Lebanon. So when something happens as devastating as this that happened in Lebanon, my heart bleeds. My first instinct was to get on a plane and go there, which wasn't feasible for so many reasons, the pandemic being one of them. But this was something that I could do. And I wanted to, bring, well, my initial goal was to help raise some funds. And thanks to everybody who has registered. And I've had a lot of people say, I'm going to register even though I can't attend, but I want to help. So the first thing I want to share with you all is that we have made over $1,500 today. So that's $1,500 more than we had that I'm going to donate. So truly thanks to everybody who has donated and joined. And I also wanted to bring these winemakers and give them a platform to speak to you, for you to get to know them. When the Civil War ended in Lebanon in 1992, there were still 4 operating wineries. Today, we have over 50. We're making over 10 million bottles of wine. The landscape of wine in Lebanon today is incredibly exciting, incredibly dynamic. It's not just the story of the Bekaa anymore today. It's the story of Bekaa, Batroun, Hamdoun, the south, the north, almost every place in Lebanon where you have mountains, and we have a lot of mountains, somebody's doing something really exciting. So I'm going to turn this discussion over to Michael, who is going to be our moderator. When we were sort of talking about who to include, we really wanted to try to give you a very large scope of what's happening in the country. So we have everything from Lebanon's first and largest winery represented by Chateau Ksara to this potentially, and Maher will tell us more, one of the smallest and newest wineries represented by Maher. So we really have we're covering a spectrum. And as I said, I'm going to lead this over to Michael. And just before I hand off to Michael, I just want to say that when I decided to do this, Michael was the first person that I thought of reaching out to and saying, please, will you help me? And Michael truly is always one to step up and help. I'll admit that I knew Michael by reputation before I knew him in person. I bought his book when it first came out. I was so excited there was a book about Lebanese wine. I bought his book. I was a fan of his writing. I was a fan of Norbert's beautiful photography. And Norbert, thank you also for being here. But when Michael came to New York years ago now to give a presentation, I will admit that I practically stalked him because I wanted to get to know him so much. And I'm very happy to say that I think I can call him a friend now. So thank you, Michael, for agreeing to do this and for being my cohort in this. And I'm gonna stop talking now and hand this over to you, and you can take it from here. But thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for your time. And that's it. Just truly thank you. So over to you, Michael. And I'm going to mute myself now. And
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Yes.
May,
yes.
thank you for that for that very generous introduction. I'm not going to dwell too much on the events of 2 weeks ago. I think everyone knows what happened in Beirut, and I think that all of us, like May and I, who are Lebanese but live outside Lebanon, have been doing our best and doing our bit to help the country in any way we can. We work in the wine industry. Wine is our most high-profile export. Wine is our oldest export. Wine is arguably our most famous export. So that's why we're here trying to shine a light on this very quirky little wine industry and how we can do to raise morale within the industry and beyond. A little bit about me. I'm Lebanese, born in the UK, spent my first 25 years there, and then decided to go back to Lebanon after the Civil War and help the country grow. That was in 1991. And since 2000, I've been involved in this, as I said, quirky little wine industry that I barged and elbowed my way into by writing a book. And it's now become part of my life. The people who are in the industry are my colleagues and my friends. And so this is this gesture we're doing today is very close to my heart. May and I decided to, when we were thinking about this, we wanted to give you a little snapshot of the country and to pick 4 winemakers who represent everything that's going on in Lebanon today. Lebanon, for those who don't know, in the talks that I've given around the world, I've managed to narrow it down to 5 things. Lebanon is very old. We've been making wine for a very long time. We were the first wine merchants. Lebanon is French because at the end of the First World War, it was given to France to mandate when the Ottoman Empire crumbled and ceased to exist. So everything that we do in Lebanon, including our wine industry, is defined by our Francophone culture, our winemaking techniques, the grapes we use, the styles that we adopt, very much, and where our winemakers are trained, we're very much French influenced. So it's old, it's French, it's also very high. May touched on the mountains. We've got mountains that really give us an edge. Our vines are planted between 1,000 and 1,800 meters above sea level, which kind of compensates for Lebanon's hot climate, so we can achieve this amazing freshness in our wines that tends to leave people a little bit mystified during blind tastings, because they really, we produce wines that really belie their hot country origins. So it's old, it's French, it's high, it's varied. We use a lot of grapes. Unlike other wine regions in the world, we're not bound by certain grapes and certain quantities, so we can produce a really diverse. We can really deliver diversity. I think there's about over 30 different varieties currently being used in Lebanon now. So again, this is something that this is another iron in the fire that we have. And we're small. We're small, as May said. We make 10 million bottles a year. It's nothing. It's plankton. It's we're even smaller than plankton in the wine ocean. But it means that we have to make an effort to deliver quality, and I'd like to think that's something that we do. We play on scarcity, and we Lebanese, we like to think that small is beautiful. So that's Lebanon in a kind of snapshot. It's old, it's French, it's high, it's varied, and it's small. And so now we're going to go to the people on the panel today. They are members of the wine industry who have been around in some cases for over 30 years, and in some cases as a shorter period as 6 years. But the reason why May and I chose them, because their credentials are impeccable, their integrity is solid, and they're all very passionate about what they do. Eli Mahmadi from Chateau Xara is probably the greatest Lebanese wine personality in the wine world. He's known by everyone. He's a great representative of our country and our wine. He's been decorated by the French. They gave him the Légion d'honneur for services to the wine trade and to agriculture. We are very lucky to have him. He is currently the export director at Chateau Xara, but before that, he trained as a winemaker. So he understands all elements of the industry. And today, I'm really hoping that he'll be able to explain how he's seen the industry develop in the last 30 years, and as well touch on the challenges of exporting Lebanese wine. Our 10 million, out of our 10 million bottles, we export about 5 million. So we don't really send a lot of wines out there. And also to touch on some of the challenges of exporting Lebanese wine today, given the multiple crises that Lebanon is facing at the time, Next, we've got Diana Salemi. I've known Diana since Norbert and I were working on our book in 2004. She's Lebanon's first woman winemaker, but that's not why she's here today. She's more than that. We're not being tokenist here. Diana is not just a winemaker; she's a very talented winemaker, and the reason why we wanted her on the panel today is because she works in 3 unique different regions in Lebanon. May touched upon the fact that Lebanon is not the Bekaa anymore. Diana works in the Bekaa. She works in Mount Lebanon on the other side of the Bekaa, and she works in the northern region of Batroun. She works for Domaine Wardi, which is a medium to big winery, and she works at Chateau Bellevue, which is micro, and she works at Atibaya, another even smaller winery. So she has seen all the various snapshots, profiles of Lebanese producers, and she's worked with them, and I hope that she'll be able to explain the different microclimates and the challenges that her work, that's involved in her work. Our third contestant is Maher Harb. Maher is the, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to call him the enfant terrible of the Lebanese wine industry. In 2013, he started the Set winery in the Batroun region. Maher has really kind of torn up the Lebanese playbook and has gone off piste, if you want, and he's made some really, really interesting and quite enigmatic wines, especially using the indigenous Meroueh and Abedi. He was the first winemaker to do a skin contact Abedi, and this makes me very happy, not only because we're using our indigenous grapes, but because a small country like ours with 10 million bottles really needs the diversity and the thoughtfulness that Maher is demonstrating. And hopefully he'll be able to tell you a little bit more about that. And last, and very much not but least, is Fawzi Aissa, the winemaker and owner of Domaine de Tourelle, Lebanon's second oldest producer, founded in 1868. And I like to think that this is, having Fawzi on board really gives us a unique insight into an old winery. The concrete tanks there are over 100 years old, and Fawzi's new energy and approach. And he really ignited a breath of fresh air when he joined full-time in the Lebanese wine industry around 2008, 2009. And I want to, and I'm hoping that Fawzi will talk about the work that he's been doing with Old Vine, Cinsault and Carignan. And again, we're working with these fabulous old concrete tanks in a very old winery. If you haven't been to Domaine de Tourelle, you should go. Hasn't been touched, hasn't been cleaned, I think, since 1868. So everything is there. The yeast is there. It's just an amazing experience. So hopefully, by the time you leave today, you would have had a very, or as comprehensive as possibly we can have, snapshot of what's going on in Lebanon. I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to start in reverse order, and I'm going to hand the floor over to Fawzi. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself and what he's been up to. So Fawzi, the floor is yours.
Hi, hi Michael. Hi Mai, thank you for the initiative. I would first be honored that, to say that I'm part of a nice league. Eli is our mentor in the business. He taught us a lot of things. In how to take the wines outside the country and how to travel outside Lebanon. And Maher, the energy, Diana, the willingness and the consistency, of course. Thank you again. Thank you for supporting Lebanon wineries, us. It's very important. I was really flattered about the help, the support we've had especially in New York, in London, everywhere. Our email inbox is flooded by emails. Every day we receive thousands of emails. Everyone wants to help. Everyone wants to be part of what's going on. Today I was writing an email saying that to someone who's really, sending me probably 4 or 5 emails, and I couldn't reply. Asking, are you still alive? Are you still alive? What's going on? What's happening? I've sent an email saying that we've, unfortunately, but fortunately, our genes were mutated, and we have in our genes a kind of resistance of what's going on. We can really be down the first week, the second week we adapt, the third week we fly and we jump and we go over what's going on. So today, what happened in Lebanon was really one of the biggest sad moment we've had. We were all down. The second day we said that we want to leave this country. We want to leave. We want to take our kids outside the country. And then the third day, we've been in the vines, controlling the maturity and preparing for the wines. So we're a bit tired, but not hopeless. Okay, so this is the part of really, about what happened 2 weeks ago. Domaine de Tourelle is a beautiful living museum winery. Happy to be working with the family. Happy to be in the Bacchus Valley, working in a terroir that is a guarantee terroir to bring great wines. Bacchus Valley with the specs that we have in the terroir, in the soil, in the weather, in the climate, in everything. It gives us a beautiful and secured result that it pushes us to think how to make this wine, how to make these grapes projected in a glass of wine with the least minimal intervention. And this is a move that we've started to implement in Domaine de Tourelle in the past decade, going into 100% indigenous yeast, concrete vast, minimal intervention, trying to be the least worked wines and show the potential of our terroir. Michael, can you a little bit orient me about what you need exactly, how you want me to go for technicalities? If you want me to go technicalities, how much I have time, just to be
I think I think what our guests would like to know about is how, and I think this is the case, how you see the Bekaa terroir and their reaction to certain varieties, and how the grapes that the Lebanese have been planting in the last 30 years, what have we been discovering? Because since the end of the Civil War in 1990, there was this move to plant what I call the superstar grapes, the Cabernets, the Merlots, the Syrahs, the Chardonnays, the Sauvignon Blanc. And these were new grapes to the area. Up until then, we'd had Grenache, Cinsault, Carignan, a little bit of Uni Blanc. And I'm just wondering, because you work with basically all of them, how you see the relationship between them now. Where do they, I mean, what grapes do what their strengths are, and what have you discovered?
Yeah. You know, my wife, Ruba, has the Portuguese passport. And when the explosion happened, she told me, listen, you can leave Lebanon. We can all leave Lebanon, and you can do your own wines in Portugal. We can live in Portugal. And I told her, there is no Bekaa Valley in Portugal. I mean, Bekaa Valley is a terroir that whatever are the situation, it gives us a beautiful diversity of choices that we can do, and again, a kind of security and insurance and warranty in the wines. Bekaa Valley, I told her I cannot leave and ferment everywhere else, because Bekaa Valley has this kind of, beautiful security and beautiful authenticity in all grapes, all seasons, all problems. We can do always great wines. I'm probably being a little bit more biased into the terroir and less biased to the winemakers, but it's the truth. In that, I mean, we need to give the credits for the terroir we have and the facility of the atmosphere and the climate that gives us beautiful and excellent quality of grapes. Cabernet Sauvignon, Syrah, Merlot, all these beautiful international grapes are amazing. They give beautiful quality in terms of wines in Lebanon. Couple of years ago, I've decided maybe I need to deviate a little bit, try to create a little bit more story in the wines, get more potential, the potential of the beautiful niche varieties of Lebanon. Elie probably is one of the most aware about Grenache, Carignan, Cinsault, the power of these grapes in the Bekaa Valley. Probably 20, 30 years ago, they used to be the solo actors in the Bekaa Valley before the arrival of the big international varieties. Today, we've discovered that, I mean, these varieties are not only resistant to pathogens, resistant to diseases, not only resistant to frost. They give you high yield. They give you beautiful acidity, beautiful structure. They give you young wines. That's very needed today. They give you round wines. They're amazing with concrete vats. They don't need a lot of oak or outside aromas. I mean, they have the perfect ripening cycle. Why don't we try them? Why don't we go all the way and create our identity? And it started 6-7 years ago when I made my first Cinsault 100%, and I've tried to create an identity of Cinsault in Bekaa Valley, showing a Cinsault that is dark in color, showing Cinsault that is structured, good acidity, and can really age. I've made a tasting of 9 Cinsault in London with different Cinsault of the world, and our Cinsault in Bekaa Valley showed that it's an atypical Cinsault that shows something different than all the other 8 wines. And honestly, the difference and the parameters is the altitude. So we have an altitude, we have a valley in altitude, and we have a clean weather, clean cycle that gives us a beautiful ripening cycle of these varieties. So to answer your question, Michael, and be more specific, the trend in Domaine de Tourelle is a little bit, I mean, is more into creating wines that are not expensive anymore, wines that are not needed to be aged for, you know, 30 years, and then after 30 years your son will drink the bottle, not you. And wines that are less less, I would say, infected by oak or by external strong harsh variety like the Cabernet. We're going towards more young Mediterranean varieties. Even my Marquis de Bay is changing a little bit, going with less oak, more Mediterranean style. And this is, I think it gives us more storytelling for the export and for the people who really need something new, a twist from our country.
Thank you, Fawzi. I'd like to bring Diana in at this point. Diana, when we met in 2004, Domaine Wardi was positioning itself as the varietal producer. Yeah. I think two things I'd like to ask you. What has been your experience with working with the wide range of varieties that you have, especially with the Abedi and blending the Abedi, as I think you used to do. I don't know if you still do, with Chardonnay, with Sauvignon Blanc, with Viognier and Muscat. You know, that's very intriguing for me. What's been your experience working with white grapes at altitude? And then, if you could touch a little bit about the various regions and microclimates that you work in.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, May, for this invitation and this event. Really, we appreciate it. And thank you, Michael, for your presentation about Lebanese wine and what's happening in our industry. I will talk first about the differences between the three terroirs where I work. The Bekaa is the most known, I think, between the terroir in Lebanon. We can say that we have a rainy winter, cold to very cold. Sometimes the temperature can reach -5, -6. We have several times we have snow. So it's really cold during the winter. During the summers, the temperature can go up to 35 degrees, but it can drop during the night, which can give us, I will say, an acceptable level of acidity. That's why we can do white wine in such temperature, because the temperature can drop mostly 20 degrees, from 35 to 15 degrees. So the acidity will be really maintained. It will maintain the acidity, because during the night, the plant will recover, I will say, from the hot. So this is, in the summer, it's always very dry. So we don't have any rain from, I will say, end of April until mid of October. So there is, as Fawzi told us, there's a small disease, but not, we are not infected by I will say, mildew or powdery mildew. So it's really, the agriculture can be organic. So it helps us a lot with the grapes. So we don't have to spray 3 or 4 times, normally 2 times, and it will be okay. To compare with, for example, Mount Lebanon and Hamdoun especially, the winter is cold to very cold. It can snow 5, 6, 7 times. It depends on the vintage, but it's not as cold during the night as in the Bekaa. And it's rained a lot more. It's the rain will be higher in Mount Lebanon than in the Bekaa side. During the summer, it's fresh. It's not as hot as the Bekaa, so we have a little bit less alcoholic degree. We have a good acidity, because in the night it will drop also the temperature, but we have a foggy nights, which will give a lot of, will refresh the grapes and the vines. So we have less alcohol degree, and the tannin are a bit softer than and less drier than in the Bekaa. And at Tibaya, where I work in the Batroun area, it's not the same altitude. We are from 450 meter to 600 meter. Here, the summer is hot, but not as hot as the Bekaa, even if it's facing the Mediterranean Sea. And we have a small, I would say, breath of freshness coming with the wind of the Mediterranean. So we don't have the difference between the temperature between the night and the day, but in the night we have the freshness of the wind and we have more humidity, really. So it's really three different terroirs. Even the difference between them is less than 100 kilometers. And the tannin are softer in the Batroun area, much softer. So I think it's okay for you. Everything is clear, or do you want me to go?
No. I think that's a very concise and very concentrated snapshot of what's going on in the country. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about your experience of working with the different varieties.
Yeah. In 2011, we started to work with Ubaidi as a single varietal and to blend it after fermentation. So every single varietal was fermented alone, and then we tried to do a blend. That's what you are talking about, what was called Clos Blanc, with introducing the Ubaidi with the blend. And really, it was normally 30 to 35% of the blend. It give us the possibility of, to work with Ubaidi alone and then to blend it, not to blend during the fermentation. So we discover what Ubaidi can give us as aromatic flavor to the blend. And then in 2013, we decided to do a single varietal Ubaidi as own, but with a small, 6 months in oak, but not new oak. So, and we launched then the Ubaidi as a single varietal.
How would you characterize the Ubaidi for people who haven't?
I like a lot the minerality of the Ubaidi and the ashy that it can give us, some notes of ashy. And I will say it's very long in the mouth, not a big acidity, but very lovely. And it will taste very long in the mouth. This is what, for me, it's really different.
That's great. And how do you, what do you, I mean, what was the mood at the time when the decision was taken to put this ancient and profound grape into a varietal wine? Because up until that point, it had been used mainly in the production of arak, our national drink, which is an aniseed-based eau de vie. What was, I mean, was there much resistance to the idea? Did they say it's not going to work? Or
I think first you explain yourself that we were under the influence of French varietal. So it was easier first to deal with those varietal because we know how to ferment them. We know how to deal with them. But it was nice also to think about Ubaidi as a single varietal for wine because we wanted to have a flag to present to international taster, to international people, that we have something especially Lebanese, autochtone, indigenous grape, and not only international grapes. So it was a flag, yeah.
Yes, no, absolutely, absolutely. Diana, thank you. I want to bring in Maher, if he's still here. Are you there? Maher,
hello, everyone.
Hi, Habibi.
Yes, can you hear me? Hi. Hi, Michael.
Maher, I just want to, because this segues neatly on from what Diana was talking about, because by the time you decided to start your winery and you decided on the type of wines you wanted to make, the taboo surrounding the Abedi had been broken. The taboo surrounding giving the Cinsault the respect it deserved had been smashed. I have two questions for you. What was your mindset when you sat down and said, right, well, I've got a winery now, what kind of wines am I going to make? And what did you discover in your short winemaking career that eventually ended up with you making this rather wonderful skin contact Abedi, something that I have to say would never have been considered 10 years ago?
Okay, well, first of all, hello everyone. That's a question that has to bring a long answer. I cannot answer this very quickly, so there's some background to this I need to tell people. So first of all, like Fauzi said, we really are warm-hearted with all the messages we got from everyone around the world about what happened in Lebanon. And obviously what we lived in Lebanon now is really something particular. Not gonna go profoundly, deeply in this thought, but I just want to say that me as Maher and as Set Winery, what brought me to become a winemaker and to establish a winery in Lebanon was also a scar from the civil war and a very dramatic story. No need to go into that, but this is, I mean, people who know me and know Set knows what I'm talking about. And what happened during the last on the 4th of August, when I thought that becoming a winemaker, following my dream, could kind of heal my traumas from the Civil War, I realized how superficial I might have been, because all those traumas came back again. And of course, as Lebanese, we always stay hopeful and continue. So today we're continuing. And of course, all the support is very we appreciate a lot. So that's for this part. About Set and how it all started, and with the Abedi indigenous grapes and skin contact. Well, I have to tell you first of all, for people who doesn't know Set and don't know me, I basically was a financial consultant management guy. Used to live in France, so I'm not an enologue, I'm not a winemaker, I'm not from this milieu. And one day I decided to come back to Lebanon and follow my dream, which was to build a winery, plant a vineyard in the land of my father who died in the Civil War. So basically I've learned wine and winemaking through readings, books, traveling, meeting people. I never been to an enology school. And when I started making wine, I based all my work on intuition and passion. Something very important, I'm telling you this story so I can tell you how the Abedi came to my mind when it was also taboo at this stage. So in 2013, I was in Montpellier having a month-long studies with the enology school there. And I went to a domain called Domaine Vassal, where they collect all the studies on grape varieties. They have an amazing collection of autochthonous grapes from around the world, and obviously Lebanese grapes. So I went there and studied and read all the studies that were done on Lebanese grape by Lebanese students back in the 50s. And I was like looking at this and saying, I mean, if I come back to Lebanon, I don't want to do a Pinot, I don't want to do a Sauvignon Blanc. It's not that I don't like them or anything, but I want to go back to Lebanon and produce something that is Lebanese. And that was in my mind. I don't know why, but this is how I was thinking about it. And I saw I read some experiences on Abedi, on Zaytouni, on Mariame, on Mirweh, etc. I knew that we had Mirweh back in the mountains in Batroun. I knew we had Abedi. Those were cepage we grow up with from Arak, from eating, etc. and none of the studies were getting to something. It was always saying like it's not really for wine. And then at that point, I didn't understand. But then when I went back to Lebanon, I just asked myself this simple question. The terroir in Domaine Vassal, which is on the beach, has nothing to do with the Lebanese terroir. So the sugar level they're getting and the maturity level they're getting is not the same thing we can get here. So their studies are not based on true variables. So as a mathematician and the scientific, I was let me try it. And that was when I got in contact with Joe Assad from Clos Saint Thomas, along with Wardi, were the first one to introduce Ubaidi as a monocepage. And he was very generous, and he sent me 500 kilos, which I took in my car. I had a Peugeot, and I took 10 cases, like 25 cases in my back of my car. I don't know how they fit. I went to the mountain, and we didn't have electricity that day. And from 2 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the morning, I was literally destemming every grape by my hand on using the light of the car. And this is the first time I made Ubaidi. It was absolutely bullshit conditions to make wine. And that was the first time I make Ubaidi. And a year later in 2016, when I tasted it, before deciding what to do, as was said, because that was the year I decided to make wine, I tasted the 2015 wine I did in those conditions. It was absolutely gorgeous. It smelled, it took me back to my childhood memories at my grandmother's house, where we used to, in the summer, smell this night jasmine flower, which is a very discreet smell. And I found that in this Ubaidi, and it was so romantic. And I said, no, man, this is gonna be something. So basically, that's the story why Ubaidi. And then, of course, 2016, I decided to work with Ubaidi. I also go and look around, and I found this Merweh vineyard in the north next to my village.
Sorry, Maher, just to clarify, Merweh is our other white indigenous grape.
Yes, it's another white indigenous, which is, okay, let me just shuffle back things and explain. So I'm based in Batroun. I'm in the mountain. I'm at 950 meter of altitude. We used to have Merweh here in the village for a long time. We lost it from phylloxera, so everything was died, and no one planted again. So basically, I tried to find some Merweh. I wanted to make Ubaidi. I wanted also to make Merweh. Ubaidi is kind of available in the Bekaa Valley. Merweh is not really available in the mountain. So when I looked, I found this small vineyard owned by a very old guy, which is like vines that grows on that climbs on trees. And it's pre-phylloxeric. Apparently, it's more than 100 years old. So the guy who's 95 years old, I asked him who planted them, and he told me his grandfather planted them. So it's a very old vine. It's very interesting. So why go to indigenous grapes? It's super simple. I believe in our Lebanese terroir. I don't do any how to say difference between Bekaa Valley, Batroun, Alayb, Shamoun, Shuf. I think the Lebanese terroir in its globality is so interesting, because in after every mountain and after every valley, the climat, what we call climat in Bourgogne, so the terroir is completely different, have different factors of wind and weather and climate and rain and soil. It's like a small puzzle of a worldwide terroir, and that's what I like about it. Okay. So basically at Set, when I started, since I don't own a lot of vineyards, I decided to go and fetch different vineyards around the country, not only in the Batroun region, in which I can produce different bottles that can showcase this diversity of the Lebanese terroir. And this is how it all started. And to be able to do that, and I heard you at the beginning, you saying how French influence we are in the wine, and not only in the wine, in the culture. And I agree. I mean, I lived in France for 12 years. I have the French passport. I am very influenced by French culture. But when it comes to Lebanon, when it comes to our land, when I decided to produce wine, I wanted to stay as much as possible away from a category of wine that we are known for, because that's good, that's respectable, and I like. But we needed to introduce the Lebanese identity in the wine. And this is where I focus all my concentration, my intuition, and my work in order to produce wines that resembles us, resembles our terroir, our land. And for that,
thank you, Maher. Thank you, Maher. I could listen to you forever. We're a little bit restricted by time, but it's a fascinating story, and I'm you know, I'm always been championing the indigenous grapes for as long as I can remember, and I'm very happy that people like you and Diana and Fauzi with the adopted indigenous grapes has done so much to put them back on the map. I want to move to Eli Mamari Halla, and now, sorry, I'm speaking Arabic, and to bring Eli in, because Eli is at the other end of the spectrum. He won't mind me saying that Chateau Ksara is the biggest winery in Lebanon, and it has really made its name making wines with the so-called international varieties. In recent years, it has released a Merouah varietal. That was the white grape that Maher was just talking about, and an old vine Carignan. So Ksara has now kind of straddling both schools of thought, both philosophies. And so I'd just like to bring Eli in, have him explain how he's seen the development of the Lebanese wine industry in the last 30 years in terms of the styles and the trends, and also tell us a little bit about what it's like to sell Lebanese wine, the challenges involved in that. Hi, Eli.
I'm just going to jump in. Hi, Eli. I'm going to jump in also just to say, if you could, Eli, because, you know, being the export manager, I know there's been a lot of curiosity about, well, the actual blast and the impact it will have on exports. So if we could also talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, when it started, as you said, we only had the Grenache, Carignan, and Cinsault. This is what we were working on. The dream of every winemaker is to produce wine with like Cabernet Sauvignon and Pinot. This was my dream, other than the others. So in 1988, this is what happened. I brought some plants of Cabernet Sauvignon and planted them in Mansoura, and even some Pinot. And it was like what can I say? Everybody, when the grapes started to give in small bunches, and it was like a revolution against me. So they went to the owner of Ksara, and then look what they did. It's a disaster. This is what he did for us. Now we have to pull off the grapes. This was the idea in 1989, 1990, when the Cabernet Sauvignon started. And not to talk about the Pinot, was a disaster, very, very small grapes. But everybody was against the Cabernet Sauvignon. Then it was adapted more or less in Mansoura and other regions. Now, as Fauzi said, yes, it's coming back to the roots, coming back to the vines who were here planted for more than 150, 160 years. So they are adapted to the weather, they are adapted to the climate, they are adapted to drought, they are adapted to the snow, they are adapted to everything. And that is why, the reason why we're coming back to these type of grapes, not leaving the Cabernet Sauvignon and the other international vines, but also to diversify our production. Well, at the beginning, when it started, it wasn't easy to export the wine. People that didn't even know that Lebanon produced wine, they didn't even know that they thought that Lebanon was in the desert, in the Sahara, and they were asking me, do you plough on camels, or how do you grow the vines? And that I've heard this in France. Could you imagine, in France, who was supposed to be near the Lebanese and know about the Lebanon and its culture. Anyway, that was the beginning. It wasn't easy at all, but of course, many visits and then explanation and then presentation and then international fairs. This is how we started. Of course, the surrounding countries was an easy target to sell the wine. Then France was the big market, followed by Germany and then the UK. And by the 1990s, when all the other wineries started coming, the challenge was bigger, but it was really nicer competition, because we started to move all together as one country, and this was the secret success of the Lebanese wine all over. When we go in one booth, having a lot of Lebanese production gives much more result than going alone. I used to go alone, and then we started going in group, and I can tell you it's far much better to be in a group and then to represent a country or region as a whole. Do you want me to talk about the export, or something about the Sarah? Or,
yeah, let's start. Actually, I'm going to ask you this question because it's been posted here. If Michael or Eli, out of the percentage of the 5 million bottles, Michael, that you said are exported, do we know the percentage that comes to the US market?
That's for Eli.
Yeah. Well, the US market is something like 300 to 400,000 bottles. Which is not
for Xara specifically, or for Lebanese?
No, I'm talking about the Lebanese.
Lebanese wines. So 300. So what is the largest export market for Lebanese wines?
Most probably France and the UK.
Okay.
But before that, the tendency and then the trend was towards the United States. If I talk about Xara, United States could have been our first market by now if the things were going as it should have been. But it's not the case, and now it's back. It's France, the first market. Not to talk about 2020, which is a disaster.
Yeah, actually, could you talk about that a little bit, because I know there's a lot of curiosity about that disaster.
Sure.
How is it going to import? I mean, I know that you know, I personally got a lot of questions of, you know, well, now that the port is gone, how are they going to get the wines out? And it's not only that, but how are you also going to bring some of the products that you need in, like bottles and labels? So you can maybe answer the export question, and then we'll throw the other question to the somebody else. Thank you, Eli.
Yeah, thank you. So as my colleague said, the Lebanese have the force, and they have the faith. They want to continue. Look at Fawzi. He didn't want to go to Portugal. He didn't want to leave. Maher also wanted to stay here and fight. Amazing enough, the port, Beirut port, is opened again. Well, as part of it, a small part of it. I sent 2 containers yesterday. So this is really amazing. This is really unbelievable. And Tripoli is being prepared, and most probably in 1 week, 10 days max, it will be operating and taking containers again. Now the priority, the problem is, the priority is for the import. So we have more than 22 ships, to be exact, 22 ships waiting at the port to go in and then empty their cargo. So the priority is for those. And to get the containers out of Lebanon, we really had to struggle to be able to get them out of the country. But it's coming. The export is coming. So this was a really disaster. The explosion at the Beirut port. 70%, even 80% of it is destroyed. But lucky enough, a small part of it that has the cranes, the big cranes, is still operating, and then we are capable of exporting from this part of it. first of all came the COVID. The problem started with the COVID all over. So this was a big hit for the export. Really big hit. So restaurants were closed and airports were closed, and then no one was traveling. Then of course came the port explosion. But before that, and the saddest part of it is the economical issues that we have, the capital control, the haircut, things that we've never heard of. Now we know them and we know how it works. So it is a nightmare for us to make a transfer. Then you have the US dollar. You have 3 rates for the US dollar. In Lebanon, we deal with the US dollar. For those who doesn't know, we deal with the US dollars. In our pocket, we carry US dollars. That was the case till 2 months ago. Now it's impossible to find almost impossible to find a US dollar. So you have 3 prices for the US dollar. You have the official price, which is 1,500 liras. You have the interbank transaction, which is almost 4,000 liras, 3,900 liras. So if you want to make transaction and to pay for your dealers outside Lebanon, you have to go through it. But it's a nightmare. You have to prepare this thick, big documentation and papers in order to be able to do that. And the third price is the black market price. Now it's at 7,000, which means that we have lost almost 70% of our power. The Lebanese lira have lost 70% of its load. And this is in a couple of months. This happened in 5-6 months. So it is a hard blow on us. But since we are fighters, that's what the Lebanese are known for. So we didn't stop. We kept on moving, and we kept on standing up. And this is the plan, and this is what we intend to do. So business as usual, if we might say. The only problem now is the major problem is the COVID problem that is still going on.
Thank you, Eli.
Eli,
I think it's amazing. Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
So I'd just like to echo what Ili said, and on behalf of the other panelists, I still think that it's very hard for people outside Lebanon to comprehend that the country's been hit by the triple tornado of inflation, there's a hyperinflation, disease, and this terrible tragedy. But I think the message all of us want to convey, and you know this, May, is the Lebanese being the original traders and the original businessmen and the masters of crisis management. Write us off at your peril, because we will be back.
Absolutely. So we have reached the 1 hour mark. I am happy for us to stay on. I still see a lot of people on there, and we have quite a few questions on the chat. So we will keep on going until my winemakers decide that they need to go have dinner because it is late for them. But I think one of the recurring themes that is said about Lebanon is the resilience of the Lebanese people, and the fact that and I mentioned this in some of the the postings that I put on there. Winemakers deal with a lot of ravages every year. You've got your rain, you've got your hail, you've got your drought, you've got these conditions. All of that truly pales in comparison to what Lebanese winemakers have to deal with. Climate is not our problem. Terroir is not our problem. Our problem is the limits that you have to deal with, from COVID to the devaluation, or the dramatic devaluation of the dollar, of the Lebanese currency to the dollar, to the inability to take out your money that is sitting in the banks, to a limitation on how many dollars you can actually take out from your bank, to now the impact on imports and exports. So it's truly amazing that despite all of that, they, these people are still hopeful. still making amazing wines, which is still today our best, I think, export. I mean, something that we can all be proud of. I know here, you know, I'm always delighted when somebody says, "Oh, tell me more about Lebanese wine." So, you know, I think one of the ongoing themes is resiliency, and yes, you know, rising up. It's always the phoenix that rises up, and that is Lebanon. So, Fawzi, I just wanted to ask you, or actually any of the winemakers, in terms of, because I know that a lot of the products that you use, like your bottles and stuff, are also imported. How has that, how has that blast actually impacted your ability to bring products in that you need and being able to pay for them? For now, anybody can answer that.
Well, today the bottle, the wine bottle we're selling in the local market, actually the bottle with the packaging is more expensive than the wine and all related. So it's funny. I mean, we would everything imported. Unfortunately, we don't have local industries to produce glass and big raw material suppliers. And this is really affecting us. I mean, whether we want to sell or not to sell in the local market. I mean, every time we're selling a bottle, we're kind of losing, you know, the value of the money we're getting back. But and with the bottles, I mean, the more we export, the better we can solve our problems on the short term. And this is very important. That's why we are. I mean, but as we said, I mean, all the problems of the world came on the same dish, you know, because we need to export, and then the Beirut port was exploded. So, I mean, you know, it's funny that all the problems came all at the same time, but who's not exporting might face a huge problem that might really get him on the edge of, you know, failure. Because I mean, if you don't get fresh money, fresh cash, fresh dollars, that is the value that you need to pay back an import, that's gonna be a problem. So I think most of us as winemakers in Lebanon are taking the market and the production a little bit slowly, just to wait and see what's going on, because it's not a sustainable way to work. We're all excited to export, of course, while our local market is very risky to sustain.
Right. So export or die.
Export is the salvation. It's our salvation. Export. So that is the fact.
Yeah, which is also why the port blast had such an impact. But it's amazing to me, because I didn't know this, that it's actually that you're actually able to export again. That they fixed part of the port. That's
Yeah.
What, 2 weeks, 3 now since that happened.
Yeah. Right.
Wow. That's amazing. I had a question here from Beth, actually, who had the pleasure of visiting some of you last summer. Where do you bring your bottles from? Where do you import your bottles from mostly? Is it France? Is it Italy?
France and Italy.
France, Italy.
France
Tunisia also.
Tunisia. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there, so since the last blast, so much glass was broken, is there any chance of taking that glass and making local bottles?
We don't have any factory in Lebanon. We don't have any more. Yeah, no.
Okay.
So it's very difficult. Normally we order our bottles 3 months to bottle, 3 months before, but now we have to order them 6 months almost.
Wow.
Yeah.
Prior to bottling. It's more difficult. Normally in any country they will order and they will have it in a week, but we have to order 3 months before normally.
Okay. Wow. There was a question from Robert, who was asking me about, and this is sort of going back to a more of a wine question. In terms, and I'm going to read this actually, are the production requirements, so in terms of production requirements for Lebanese wine, first, actually, there was another question. Is there a legal document that stipulates winemaking practices in Lebanon? that in the same way that you would have in, you know, what, I mean, I know it's not in terms of grape varieties, but in terms of practices, is there anything that regulates whether you may chaptalize or anything like that? Is that anywhere in writing?
There's a law for that.
As a wine law?
Old the law from 1928. And that is why we have the UVL that is trying to do something. But the most important is to have the long wait organism that we need. Fauzi knows the problem we're facing to have such an organism that we haven't succeeded to have yet in situ.
So the wine regulation that we have dates back to 1928.
Yeah, it has been renewed to 2000, but you know, with supplement. But what we really need is an academy for this has been there has been a law permitting that, and we had the agreement, the government agreement that we'll have this academy, but we're still waiting for it to happen, and there's no budget. Now it will be a long time before we have it, unfortunately. But it's a self-controlled, how do I say, regulation for each winery. Not a single winery had any problem to export their wines, because we do the wines as it should be, as the French way of doing it. So we follow the codex as it says. So exporting our wines has never been a problem for any of the wineries in Lebanon.
Great. Okay, thank you. And there was another
May, can
question.
I jump in?
Yes, please do.
Can I just jump in a second? Sorry,
Yeah,
just to add to what Eddie said. The Union Vinicole du Liban at the moment is the de facto body that represents the wine industry at the moment. As Elie said, there is a National Wine Institute on paper, but it has not been activated. But that doesn't mean the industry hasn't got anyone steering. The UVL is a very, very competent body that looks after the interests of its members. And as you said, we're only 50 producers. We can't afford to indulge in sharp practices because we'll get found out, and we're too small to get found out. So the industry self-regulates to a certain degree, and so far it's worked.
Cool. Thank you. There was another question about bottles. I know, Fauzi, that you have a program where you take back your bottles and you reuse them. Am I correct in that? You were doing that, right? You take your bottles back and reuse them. Is anybody else recycling their bottles? Are you?
We have a kind of move that we ask our consumers to participate in the green move, in getting back their bottles, and then we try to reuse them again. We have a special material / machine that re-sterilize all the procedure, but it can solve, I would say it's solving 2% of our need per year. So we still need a little bit of time for people to adapt and to commit with such a behavior. You know, this is something, I mean, reusing bottle, it's not a question of it's not only difficult in Lebanon. Apparently, it's difficult everywhere in the world, and it's not something that is easy to implement.
Yeah.
We also do that, May, if I may.
Yeah, yes,
we also
please.
do that. You know, we have our bottles are very particular. We have the serigraphié, the logo engraved on it. So we try as much as possible to get bottles back from clients here in Lebanon. But as Fauzi said, it's maybe less than 2% also. This helps a little bit when we wait for the bottles. And you were talking about the bottle import. A simple example, I ordered my bottles back in December, and for Corona problems, they're gonna get here end of September, which means I'm gonna ferment all my wines while the 2019 are still waiting in the vats, which kind of create a problem in the logistics and how much I can produce this year, for example.
Right, right, yeah.
Domain Wardi is offering to collect the bottles when you have 12 bottles. So we will go to the consumer and collect the bottle.
Oh, that's great, actually. And then there was a question also about labels. Where do you print your labels locally, or do you also import your labels?
50-50, it depends.
I do that.
Some of the labels.
Hey, Maher?
I do that in Lebanon. The engraving is in Europe, but the back label is in Lebanon.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm getting a lot of questions in the Q&A, so I was just trying to keep an eye on those. And I've seen a lot. So just a couple of people were asking me, the wines are a little bit hard to find sometimes. That's true. That's why we also want all of your support, because if you go to a store more than once or twice and ask them for a bottle of Lebanese wine, chances are they will bring it in. So go and ask for that wine, go ask for those bottles. And the other question, I also posted in the chat all the distributors for the wineries that are here today. So they're all available in the US market. I know I speak for New York, but they're all available there. So please do check the chat. You can also email me directly and I can connect you with their suppliers and or with the people on this call, and then you can we can ask them directly. So again, I'm trying. Michael, do you have any other anything else that you wanted to ask? Because it's hard to do both. Keep an eye on the chat and talk. So
no, I'm fine. Let as many people who want to ask questions get their questions in there.
Yeah, actually, there was a question before. It was about, and I think it was for Maher and or Diana, the terroir in Batroun. In terms of what soil types do you have in Batroun? Can you talk a little bit about that? How, I don't know how, if it's very monolithic or it's very diverse. So maybe we'll start with you, Diana, at Dibaya, and I think you're a little bit lower, right? And then we'll go to Maher.
Yes, we have 2 to 3 different type of soils. What I can say that we have terraces in the 5 hectares that we have in Atibaya. So even if it's we have more rain, but everything goes into the terraces, so it's very dry after. We have limestone and as clay. So it really we have different type of soils.
Okay. Maher?
Yes, so basically, as she was saying, there's in the mountain, Lebanese mountain, you go from the shore is next to the sea is a semi-tropical climate, and when you go up, it goes into Mediterranean, more Mediterranean climate. So when you start in the 400 meters above sea level, you get more freshness during the summer at night, a lot of dew, etc. As type of soils, it varies from clay to clay as a dominant with limestone to limestone with less clay and with some sand. And when you go up towards the really high altitudes, and there's not a lot of vineyards there, you go into a lot more sandy soils and volcanic soils, very old volcanic soils, etc. Where I am, it's on 950 meters. It's actually a mix of clay, sand, and limestone on a bed, on a bedrock, which is very superficial. Like 1 meter, you hit the bottom. And that's the mountain, the limestone, the mountain that goes back to the sea. So basically it's a very superficial soil that always in terraces. So in Italy, there's some terraces up in the mountain, they call them heroic vineyards. So we are kind of heroic, we don't really talk about it. So it's really hard to produce wine, to plant vineyards and to grow them in terraces. In the mountains, especially in Batroun, we don't have a lot of plains. So mainly it's very, very abrupt as a mountain.
Yeah.
And we work in terraces. So, and our ancestors used to work in terraces. So mainly all the vineyards are planted on old terraces that has been rehabilitated, etc.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Maher. And I know in the Bekaa, we're talking about a different also lay of the land. It's typically more flat, right? And we don't really have terraces in the Bekaa. Is that? True to say?
No, in the Bekaa, you have the plateau, the Bekaa Valley. It's not a valley, it's a plateau. It will start about 900 meters above sea level. And then you have the mountains who surround the valley, the plateau. So you don't have terraces, but you have hills.
Yeah.
So you have the plateau and you have the hills. So no terraces, there's no terraces. But hills, you have the slope.
Yeah. Is anyone irrigating, or is it mostly dry farming?
Dry farming mainly.
Dry farming.
Dry farming.
Yes.
Dry farming. The water is very expensive in Lebanon, so we will buy water to drink. So for the vines, it will be really very, very expensive.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about how the availability or lack thereof of water, and the availability or lack of electricity.
I need to just say something about why we don't irrigate. Of course, it's because it's not sustainable and it's very expensive, but it's also our terroir is a terroir that is really irrigated all winter, and we have a lot of water, and the vines have the capacity to go deep in the soil and get the freshness and the humidity they need. And mainly that's why we don't irrigate. And the only place we irrigate in Lebanon is in the north of Bet Bekaa, which is a semi-desertic climate, and it's the only one in Lebanon. So people to understand, in Lebanon, we are not a dry country. We are a country that has a lot of rain, but in the winter and spring season, while in the summer we are completely dry, but they can count on the soil to get their nutrients and humidity.
I think a lot of people.
Sorry, we are talking about valley, and when you talk about valley, you talk about mountains surrounding this valley. Don't forget that these mountains could go up to 3,000 meters and 2,500 meters. Mount Lebanon and Anti-Lebanon. So we have snow on these mountains, and by springtime they will melt and they will create this reserve into the soil, going down to the plain. That is why we do not need to irrigate. Plus, we have between 600 to 700 millimeters of rainfall per year, which is the reason why we do not need to irrigate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. No, thank you. I haven't seen any questions in the chat. Okay, there's a good question, Gabriela, about indigenous grape varieties. So we talked about Ubaidi and we talked about Mirwah. One of the big questions that we still get is, are there any Black indigenous grape varieties that are for winemaking? And I'm not talking about the heritage grown varieties, but actually any indigenous Lebanese varieties. I know that's been an ongoing discussion. Have we made any discoveries that we can break the news? Yes, Michael.
Can I jump in here?
Jump in here.
I've been working, but following the work of Chateau Kifraya's Fabrice Giberteau. He's the winemaker at Chateau Kifraya, and he went to France about 4 years ago and went to the, I don't have the name of it offhand, but it's a big
Sorry,
center
Michael,
where
it's a Domaine Vassal I talked about in my intervention in Montpellier. Okay. That's the place.
And they've kept, apparently when the French were running the show during the mandate period, they took a lot of cuttings from Lebanon and stored them there. Fabrice went there, took about 5 or 6 cuttings, planted them in a corner of the Chateau Kifraya winery, and last year made 1,000 bottles with a variety called Aswad Karesh. Okay. So that was the first time in the 20 years I've been following the Lebanese wine industry that we had a recognized, confirmed Black Lebanese indigenous grape made into a wine. And very nice it was too. I've got my tasting notes somewhere. I can't find them, but Fabrice has said that he's going to increase production every year up to 20,000 bottles. So we should be seeing more of this very exciting wine in the market very soon. Aswad Karesh, it's Aoud, Karesh, Karesh.
Okay, yeah, somebody put it in Farah put it in the chat. Okay, so that's really interesting. Okay, so we are about to hit the 1.5 hour mark. So I think we will, I think that's a good run. People are still here. Well, for you, it's dinner time, and for us, it's still midday, and people probably need to get back to their work. But I wanted to just jump in once again, just to give everybody a chance to just leave us with any parting thoughts. I know actually a nice way to end it would be maybe tell us a little bit about this year on some good news, not about the blast and the pandemic, but the conditions of the harvest, what it's looking like, if you've already started to harvest. So why don't we, Eli, why don't you kick us off?
We haven't started yet. We'll start on Monday, but what I've heard was really nice, nice year, good yield, and then a good quality. How was it started? You might tell us maybe a little bit more, perhaps.
Okay, so Fawzi, how's the harvest for you?
Fawzi sleeping.
Yeah, I think Fawzi's frozen. All right, we'll come back to Fawzi. Diana, tell us, because you've got 3 different places that you're working. So what's your story?
No, we started with some white, with Chardonnay, and we'll start with Sauvignon Blanc on Saturday also.
For which
so
winery?
It will be a very nice vintage. In the Bacchus, we started with Chardonnay, and Bellevue, we will start Sauvignon on Saturday. Okay. So it's a very nice vintage. The summer was not so hot. We had enough of rain this winter. So I hope it will be a very nice vintage, and it will compensate the 2020 problems.
Yeah, okay, inshallah. Fawzi, you started, do we have you back? I think he's having a little bit of technical, there you are. You started your harvest, right? I saw some pictures on Instagram.
Yeah, we've started with Chardonnay and Viognier. Looks like a big vintage. I mean, high, good yield, beautiful acidity, and I would say a delayed vintage due to the generous winter we had, and we're having quite balanced weather this year that gave us a good cycle, vegetative cycle for the vines. So, but I mean, the question that everyone asks me, how is the vintage? It's always good. It's always good in Lebanon. So we have always beautiful vintages, and I mean that's why we're lucky to be in Lebanon. I mean, we cannot have everything bad. We need to have something good. That you say, you know. I mean,
yeah. True. Maher, what about you? Have you started?
God is fair. God is.
God is fair.
Is on his move now.
Hey, Maher, have you started to harvest anything?
No, I haven't. So as everyone said, I mean, as Fawzi said, this is a delayed harvest this year because of the generous winter and cold temperature we had until the summer. It's a very good. I think it's a very good. It's going to be an amazing vintage 2020, and at least this is something good in 2020. I've been saying that since the beginning of the year. Normally at SAT we start later than everyone because we have terroirs that are usually late than others. So basically we're expecting to start on the 5th of September. We finish in the middle of October with our baby.
Is everyone hand harvesting?
Everyone.
Yes.
Does anyone do machine harvesting in Lebanon?
There's no machine harvesting in Lebanon.
There is no machine harvesting in Lebanon.
No.
So it's all hand harvested.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you. Michael, any closing words?
No, I think it's been a really successful event. Great snapshot of the country, great passion, great enthusiasm from the panelists. And I think that, yeah, great. Thank you, May. Thank you for allowing me to take part. And yeah, let's just keep on drinking Lebanese wine.
Yes.
Drink Lebanese wine.
Drink Lebanese wine.
Encourage Lebanon.
Okay, so thank you, all of you, so much for your time, for this conversation. I think from the feedback that I've been getting, people really enjoyed it. There's a lot of goodwill. I think people want to support Lebanon. People want to support Lebanese wines. You're doing amazing things. I know that the struggle is even more than all of you actually said, but I love to leave it on a hopeful note. So it's a beautiful harvest. Tomorrow's a new day. That Lebanese resiliency, only good things will come of it. So thank you to everyone. I have to say, just a shout out to the industry people, especially in New York, that have joined and were some of the first to get on there and donate. I know how hard it's been, especially for people who are in the restaurant business. This has been an incredibly tough year. Some of their places may not even reopen, we don't know. So for your generous support, I'm truly, truly touched. So thank you for that. Thank you for everybody's time and for being here. I will I've been a lot of learning skills this week. So my next one will be to try to edit the beginning of this video where we're having some technical difficulties. So I'm going to try to edit that out and then post it. So I'll try to share that with you. Before we close out, I also wanted to say thank you so much to you, Michael, for being here, for helping through this, and to mention, can you we have 2 more minutes. Do you want to say something about the movie? Aside from your books, but you're also making a movie, and some of the people we saw here today will be in that movie. So
thank you. Yes, a free plug for the film that I've been working on for the past 7 years, called Wine and War. It is a homage to the Lebanese entrepreneur seen through the lens of the wine industry. It's a thrilling blockbuster that you shouldn't miss. Feature-length documentary out on September 25, and yeah, catch it if you can.
Where will they catch it? Will it be on various platforms, on Netflix or so?
Amazon,
so yeah,
either Amazon or Netflix or somewhere else. But if you really want to get under the skin of the Lebanese wine industry and see some of the people who've made it happen over the last 7,000 years, tune into that.
Excellent. And when is your book coming out? Your revised book on the wines of Lebanon?
Who knows? Okay. Meant to be out 2 months ago. It's now scheduled for 9 months from now. So let's see.
This is the year for everyone to really embrace their Zen. Just go with the flow. So we shall do that. All right. Well, best of luck to you. Best of luck to all of you. Eli, Maher, Diana, Fauzi, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your stories. Love you. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep making beautiful wines. And
ciao.
Bon courage.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Michael.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Bye.